have the knowledge of the subject, but I'm not thinking, stopping, pausing, having a sip from my water. I'm sharing it with you. That's natural, to be able to be a natural child, that to be able to be natural, spontaneous.
Won't your manager say you're not serious in your work?
If I do it too much, yes. If I cannot concentrate, like there was a time when I was very young, it was very, even in colleges, it was very difficult for me to sit alone in the room and study. I needed to have people. So I would create 8 or 10 of us, go to the library, in the house, somewhere else, and study in a group. Later on, I realized that it's not going to help me for a longer period of time. So I've moved into, now I can sit alone for hours together and concentrate and study. So it becomes negative. You don't know when to stop. You crack a joke, people laugh, brilliant. But I've come across people who crack a joke even when they're attending a funeral. Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
Yes,
it's happened to me a number of times, and they cracked a joke and I just didn't know what to do, whether to laugh or to, I don't know what to do to that. So that's negative, totally negative. A little professor, very good, creative.
Yeah, no, before we move to that, there are natural people, those people who are sort of maybe as a result of the critical mothers, everything is negative.
Yes.
This country is horrible. That colleague of mine is horrible. That person is this, that person is that. Any cure for those people?
They have to realize, they have to realize one thing, that what experiences they have had, it's their experience. It may not necessarily get repeated into their children's life. So no point. I've also come across ladies and the men folks, after the divorce and separation, they bitch about their partners so badly in front of their kids. Fine, you're coming out with your feelings, you're feeling lighter inside, but what impact it's creating on the other people, it's not worth it. I've come across people talking about so bitterly, even in open forums. Fine, your relationship was bad, you've separated. God bless you, God bless him. But live like that and have good, you must have had some good memories. So we have become very negative, you're absolutely right. And when we start sharing, talking about it all the time with the children, it had its own negative impact on people. It doesn't help. Yeah. The cure is only that they have to understand that it has negative connotations and it ruins their life too.
Yeah. With this next one, there is the usage of the word professor. The moment you say professor, say, Leonard, PhD is here now. This cannot be a little one. And then you say little professor. Yeah. How do you reconcile the two?
The professor is the professorial abilities, and little means small. When you have that little professorial thing, then you become creative, and that's why the name has been given, and you look for ways and means to manage your work. Like my little professor is very high, very high. And the adult was not very high. As a result of that, I was very manipulative in my childhood. I have never gotten beaten up in my life. 6 brothers, 2 sisters, including me, not even once a slap. Not even once. I would manage my way. I was very, very creative. But that was manipulativeness. Manipulative, little professor plus rationality is creativity.
Manipulative in management isn't that bad?
See, when you manipulate even in business, it doesn't give you return. It's a very short-term gain. And unfortunately, most of us, including the business houses, they've become very short-term oriented. They try and understand how quickly can I draw my monies or mullahs out of it, and then make sure that I'm safe financially. But not too many people I've seen who create organizations, who create big houses, who create good values for themselves and for the country. Not too many people I've seen that. Sumaria is one such company which is doing that. AJ Group has invested a lot into this activity. In fact, full time I'm doing this only to make sure how do we bring in systems, how do we bring in a positive and proactive work culture, how do we create an atmosphere where it's the logic that matters, not the position, not the gray hair. We're doing that. So therefore, yes, we have become very short-term oriented.
Right. Little professor, then creative. How can this little professor apply his creativity when A, he's among many, 2, he is a junior, and on top of him there is a strong, boastful supervisor, manager, or boss?
When you're a junior, you get the problem, you get the issues in your hand. Normally, most of us, what we do is, has it happened before? Show me those documents and look at it and come up with such or similar solution to the problem. That is not out of the box thinking. That's very within the box thinking. It's not creative. A creative person would understand, I understand this issue was handled this way last time. Can we handle it differently? What are we trying to achieve when we handle it? So when you start doing thinking from that angle, then you start using your little professor. When you move into a senior position and you are yourself a high little professor, then you would not impose your views onto people down the line. You would ask them, what do they think? You would examine them. And mind you, it doesn't take days to gather. If 5, 6, 10 people are sitting in your department and you ask them, how would you like to handle this situation? It takes only 10, 15 minutes extra. But when you ask them, you not only yourself creative, you're looking for creative solutions and you're encouraging everybody to get into out-of-box thinking and come up with creative solutions.
There are occasions where you have all the subordinates, at least most of them, are little professors, but their boss is not. You know, he is the strong one. He says, I am the boss. How will this merge?
No, this is a problem that I continuously face, that the bosses normally believe they are God's gift to this earth and everybody else is a subordinate. When that subordinate literally and figuratively. Figuratively, you know.
No. They are not God's gift, these bosses?
Everybody is God's gift. Even if I'm sweeping the floor here, I'm a God's gift. The issue here is we must have humility. No matter what height we have scaled in our life and done so well, amassed money or property or organization. But we must have that humility in us that we look at somebody else and respectfully address them and talk to them. Hugely present in Tanzania, respect for people down the line, hugely, and I have a lot of respect for this behavioral pattern. When you are a little professor, you use your creativity, you allow other people to use their creativity. End of the day, you would take a decision which is best suited for the organization or for the family. I understand that, but having debated and discussed and examined from all perspective, that triggers the little professor. But what I have seen in the ego state, egogram analysis that I've done for so many people, India, Tanzania, these are the two countries I have worked for a very long period. So these two countries, they produce a lot of normative people. That adaptive child is very high, to the extent that right from the moment we are born, we get list of do's and don'ts, what we should do, what we should not do. And we spend our life only in complying with those norms. When you comply with those norms, then your own creativity starts becoming dwarf, smaller and smaller. And after some time, you don't know what creativity is all about. All that you want to do is that I must do things which will be approved by the society. I must do things which is approved by the sect or the religion or the country I hail from, and that's about all. So therefore, 80 to 85% of the cases I see that a little professor is smaller and adaptive child, which is normative child, is very, very high. Because of the freedom that we give to people, this freedom and the normative behavior minus little professor and minus rationality makes people move into two dimensions. So they would be very normative overtly, covertly they would be very, very naughty and they will do all kinds of things. And that's a paradox. If I don't drink, I don't drink. But if I pretend to you that I don't drink, I'm an alcoholic drink, and I quietly hide and drink, I may enjoy that, but I'm creating a paradox in my life of between not doing and doing. I hide and do it. I may not realize it, but it creates a guilt feeling within us and it dissipates a lot of our energy. So therefore, if you drink, go ahead and drink and admit it in front that I drink. I understand I drink. You don't like it. It's my misfortune, but I would not hide from you. So therefore, when I do this program, I always motivate people to get in touch with themselves, connect to their inner self.
Yeah. It's all very well, Antesh, to do this to the organization, what in this particular case called them civilian organizations. I've got many friends, brothers and sisters in the police force. I've got many friends, brothers and sisters in the army. Then they'll say, this is not for us. Because, I'm a colonel, I am an inspector, and the rest have got to salute me.
See, there are, in these kind of organizations, which is normative organizations like defense services, where you cannot allow people to be freer than that they required. So they make sure that a junior salutes the senior, and that senior salutes his senior. That normative behavior has to be kept in mind, because you're talking about the country's defense. And there, if indiscipline comes in, the price that country has to pay is huge. So there it is a little more. But even in military, if you see,
military and police.
Yeah, military and police, for example, even if you see them, especially in military, I've seen it in India, they have their bars, they have their meals together, they have their drinks together, and they crack a joke and the colonel will laugh and marshal will laugh and enjoy. But the moment it's out, they will not mix around with them, but they would allow them to be free, so that that urge to relate is kept intact. But yes, I agree with you that in these two organizations, the discipline is very, very important.
Yeah. Discipline is important. So are you telling me that in an organization, when you have got little professors, working and whatnot, the aftermath is in discipline?
No, it's not really. When I'm saying that, in disciplinary, in organization like police and defense, it is necessary to ensure that discipline is maintained at that level all the time. So that when you tell them shoot, they go and shoot. They follow instruction. But in other organization, when the discipline is never expected to that extent, and if somebody wants to have that kind of an discipline in an organization, to my mind, I don't think that those organizations survive for a very long time. They die off. So.
Right. Okay. Adaptive child. We move to adaptive child.
Adaptive child is the normative child, which follows instructions, traditions. They will, if the father says, I have to do this, if the mother says, I have to do this, I have to come back home such and such time. Depends on, it is developed out of critical parent and nurturing parent experiences of the child. And normally they are, if it is too much, then it is very inhibitive. People don't share freely. They always worried about it. If I do this, I hope the mother will not say anything wrong and the father will not beat me up, even though they are dead and gone long time back. It stays with us, and thereafter we start passing it to our children also. But if it's little bit there, it's tremendous. Like when I walk in and say, good morning, Hamza, how are you? And you, my senior, if I walk through the door and I keep the door open for you and you walk out, you would have very healthy respect for me. That's a very good man. Even at this age, I open car door for my wife. And some of them, they say, wow, you do it even at 30 years of marriage. I say, yes, I would continue to do it. These are good manners. So limited amount is good. But too much of adaptive child, to my mind, is very inhibitive.
Okay, let's move now to an organization with adaptive child who are now supervisors, managers, and executives. How should they behave? How will it relate in their day-to-day work?
See, it depends on what the organization wants to achieve through the people. If the organization is fast-paced, growing rapidly, ambitious, has a vision, then they would have to make sure that apart from the norms, etc., which has to be there in a limited manner, people are encouraged to come out with their ideas. People are not inhibited by the hierarchy, by the position, or by the age of or age of the person. So I don't know whether I'm getting across to you.
Yes.
So it has to be there, but not so much. I've come across many people in many organizations that adaptive child is so damn high that all that matters to them is that, am I following instructions? Am I doing the right thing? And that's tremendously inhibiting. That doesn't help an employee to contribute as much as he or she can.
Yeah. So when you give these lectures for which we've been doing for over decades, how do you describe to your audience an ideal organization?
See, an ideal organization, if you prepare an organizational script, the most dominant in that organization has to be A, adult, which means rationality. Rationality. Even if someone has not followed instructions or not followed the norm, before giving the verdict, you ask that person, why did you do that? What were the limiting factors, compelling factors? Adult has to be number one, the tallest.
Yeah, before you move further, these people don't listen. If you ask them, you're just wasting your time. Just deduct money. Make the rules crystal clear. You don't come, you lose 20 shillings. You are late, you lose 5 shillings. Such instructions, such, regimes.
I've seen that. I've seen that. I have always believed that we must move from being a punitive organization to a corrective organization. We must correct situation. We must understand. Yes, if somebody is incorrigible, then you have to put your foot down and take your call, take your decision. I'm not suggesting no to that. But definitely, first attempt should be to correct. Because you don't know what has happened. You don't know what the circumstances are. And if a happy employee works with you of his own accord or her own accord, when I say he, it includes she. So ladies, please don't misunderstand.
These days, very gender sensitive.
Gender sensitive. So he includes she. That person should realize that it's a caring organization and he would give you more productivity than what you would get by increasing the pay or the salary and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Then in other organizations, and my favorite word personally is, you will get fired if you don't do this.
I've heard that before. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And I normally, whichever organization I work, I make sure that these words are not used. And especially in both the companies, I'm lucky. Sumaria, it was never there. In AJ Group, it's never there. In fact, our chairman, Mr. Al-Nur Jamari, says, go ahead and work on the individual and help him to resurrect and start being productive. Shabir, very humane they are. Very humane, very nice people. But yes, I've come across the organizations where I used to do consultancy before. I have gone and told them, please don't use this word. Especially in West, I've seen that. They say it, you're fired. You're fired.
I think you mean the Americans. This is their favorite word. Yes, this is their favorite word after hello. Yes.
That's a good one, huh?
Yeah. Then, okay. We have done, the A should be number one in organization, yes. Rational, adult. Then next.
Number 2 dominant should be little professor. Because the scenario is very dynamic. And you have to be competitive. And if you have to be competitive, you have to be creative. Then only you will come up with very novel solutions and implement them and ensure that the organization is ahead of its competition. The third highest has to be natural child. Because natural child is the energy. And lots of pressures are created when you work in the current scenario. Those pressures, a child can deal with it very effectively. And the child can change himself or herself or also adapt very comfortably to changing scenarios. So therefore, number 3 has to be child. Number 4 has to be the nurturing parent, the caring, love and concern, because that's the base of our society. If love, care and concern is not there, the society won't stay together. So love and concern, that's the 4th one. The 5th comes critical parent, and the lowest should be the adaptive child. So if you make, it would be a slanted inverted M. Slanted inverted M to the right side.
Which means you start with
A.
Which is
adult. And then it will be little professor.
Which means
creative.
Creative.
Then natural child, which is energy.
Right.
And then comes love and affection, nurturing parent.
Nurturing parent.
Then comes critical parent, which is controlling, evaluative, judgmental, which is also needed in our life. And the last comes adaptive child, which is the normative ego state.
Right. Can you develop this in organization? If you do, how?
When you, it's a culture. We are moving into now culture building
Yes.
part of it.
Yes.
When you start building culture, then you are talking about taking the current stock of things. How are we managing the company currently? Are we very controlling? Are very normative, or we are free, focus, so on and so forth. And when you do the analysis, you start realizing that there are areas which are obnoxiously high and counterproductive. For example, if hierarchical orientation is there and the boss is everything and everybody else is subordinate to the boss, then mentally also everybody will be subordinate to the boss. That needs to be corrected, for which we can get into coaching that those individuals, we can get into creating sessions and agreeing as a team that we need to encourage people to be more creative and more rational. And then you start doing this program apart from various other programs in a timely manner, and create forums where people can get up and express their views, share their opinion, and they are addressed, need not necessarily be agreed to. You don't have to agree to them. So these kind of things, and it takes about 3 to 4 years time for you to move to a situation where you say that it's a company I would love to work with. But as of now, I think most of us, we would like to work in a company which pays us the most, which is a 5-day week, go at 9 o'clock, come back at 5 o'clock. But I think once you cross 50, then you start realizing that hard work, there's no substitute for hard work.
In conclusion, give us a comparison. The good company is this one which you've just mentioned, a little while ago. What is a bad company? Bad organization?
See, a bad organization is which is very instructional, where the wisdom is monopolized by people at the top, and everybody else, they have to only follow instructions. That's a bad organization. It's a huge subject. If you go further into this subject, then you understand that there's life position attached to it, and people operating from a particular life position, they will always be counterproductive to the organization, to people down the line, and to themselves also.
Yeah, I am a human being, a worker, wanting to get up, on the ladder. I'm watching A K Sinha on Hamza K. What advice will you give me, sir?
Depends on what role you're talking about. If you are a child.
No, I am now, working. I am working, okay. But, sort of I want to excel in my work.
Okay. My advice to you would be, have faith in yourself. No matter how badly or how wonderfully you're doing, have faith in yourself, because that belief gives you the energy to go and deal with changes or the adversities of life. Number 2, try and ask questions before you conclude on any issues. If you're normative, fine, but don't push these norms to people down the line in your own family. When you don't push these norms, then you see the flower blossoming beautifully. And my suggestion would be that keep adding value, study, interact with people, attend seminars, read books, and then you add value and become better than what you are.
I thank you very much indeed, A K Sinha, for spending the last 1 hour with us.
My pleasure.
This very, very informative lecture, I may say. And for you viewers at home, both old and young, have faith in yourselves, ask questions, and don't impose your things, and add value by studying, and especially you who are in the business of journalism. Studying is very important. Once again, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And you viewers at home, I thank you for being with us. If you've got any questions, do not hesitate. Please, you can drop us an email, which is shown on your screen there, and we will have A K Sinha coming back here. In fact, from the what he says that I did not finish, I will call him some other time. However, next week there will be a totally different program, and I do invite you to join us again. So, till we meet again next week at the same time, God bless you all.
Bongo Hour was brought to you by Vodacom. Vodacom, kazi ni kwako.
Pata ugunduzi zaidi. Vodacom, kazi ni kwako. Pata uwezo zaidi. Vodacom, kazi ni kwako.